How my obsession with space made me 1300%. Hey guys, today I have a little bit of a crazy story for you that continues to blow my mind. This is the story of how one stock returned more than 1300% on my initial investment. It all starts during my freshman year when I had a few epiphanies. The first one is that one day I would graduate college with a degree in mechanical engineering. Two, with said degree, I would have the potential to make a good amount of money throughout my career. And three, I've always been a good saver, but had no idea what investing was or entailed, let alone what a stock was. Naturally, this led me to do some research. I started out with YouTube videos, which got me more interested in the topic, and then decided that reading would be even better. So I got my first book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For those of you that aren't familiar, this book outlines Robert Kiyosaki's beliefs regarding investing. Some of these beliefs include focusing on acquiring assets rather than liabilities, prioritizing financial education over formal education, and making your money work for you instead of working for money. At the same time, at the same time I was learning about finance, I was also researching companies to work for after college, specifically ones that dealt with space technology, which is actually the whole reason I got into engineering in the first place. One day, during the summer after my freshman year of college, while looking through some of these companies, I stumbled upon a rocket manufacturer named Rocket Lab. At the time, I knew nothing else besides the fact that they were a launch company that positioned themselves as a competitor to SpaceX. Other than that, and a good impression from their website, I really had no idea what their company outlook was financially and knew very little about the technology or scope and integration along the supply chain. Then I saw something that piqued my interest in another way. Unlike SpaceX, they had a public stock which I could invest in. So I did what every dumb newbie investor does, and I put $1,000 in at about $5 a share. At the time, this was a lot of money for me, but having just read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I knew that I needed to invest big to win big, so I did. The stock had IPO'd at about $10 a share, so I suspected that the stock would simply double in a few months, returning to the original price. Just for some perspective, this was in 2022. So I waited and waited and waited, and it slowly fell towards $3 a share. During this time, I was trying to create a habit of investing a little every month. At the time, it was only about $100, and I dumped it into my collection of hand-picked stocks. But the market was pretty stagnant, and I watched as many stocks soared while my portfolio did below average. And 2 years into this bet, I assumed I had failed in my original assumption and actually liquidated half of my Rocket Lab holding at the time and moved the rest into SPY, which is just an index fund of the S&P. Since then, I switched my approach. I decided that instead of picking over 20 different stocks, I would just put the majority of my money into the S&P and then a little into a few companies I really believed in. Over this time period, I looked for every reason not to fully sell my shares of Rocket Lab, and I actually found it through doing some research, learning their technology, their plans for the future, and their potential customers, and some of which are major players in the space industry. And then in 2024, something amazing happened. Rocket Lab was launching consistently, and they were having success with each launch. They were being trusted more by their customers and potential customers, and furthermore, were becoming a very serious alternative to SpaceX in the small payload area. Their stock began to soar, first breaking through $10 and then exploding towards 25. I truly couldn't believe it. But being in for the long haul, I just kept investing because it had become a habit, and I still believed there was a future for this company. Following the threat of tariffs in early 2025, the stock took a hit once again and fell to about $16. But now that I was a seasoned investor, I knew better than to simply sell at the first sign of loss. So I doubled down and I bought even more shares. This brings us to today, where this little stock where I bought for a mere $5 has grown to be $65 a share at the time of this recording. This past month, I sold off some of my principal amount and am working to recycle it into other investments. But from this experience, I have a few takeaways to share with all of you. The first and most important thing to mention is doing your full research. At every point along this turbulent journey, if I had simply taken the time to sit down and research the full extent of what Rocket Lab was doing, I would have been far more capable of making a level headed decision of whether or not to invest, and not just simply on vibes. The next lesson is when you have a conviction and are confident in your research, hold and hold for a long time. This is something I did well and it really paid off. During those 2 years where the stock actually lost value, I could have sold everything, and I almost did, but I doubled down and decided to keep what I had anyway. And the final takeaway is that you should never just ape into a stock, no matter how hot it is. Learn to dollar cost average and continually invest. For me, I automated a portion of my paycheck to be transferred to my investment account as soon as the money hits my checking every 2 weeks. And this approach, along with my small monthly contributions of $100 that I used in the past, have added up to amounts I didn't even believe were possible 3 years ago. With all this said, I need to disclose that I'm not a financial advisor and urge you to do your own research or consult with one before making any financial decisions. I hope this story has been entertaining to you all, and I hope it helps you better understand what's possible when you properly examine, have a high confidence in what you're doing, and are consistent in your efforts. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.